them a gift to help them with that. And the building is up and running, and God's using that in a wonderful way. The country of Senegal is 99% Muslim, and God is using the Mead family to spread the gospel in that needy country. And Brother Mead is our preacher this morning. He's going to come. He's preaching for us tonight as well. So Brother Mead, you come and preach the word of God to us.
Thank you, Pastor. We are blessed to be here and be back in Senegal for a little bit. We're glad the warmer weather is finally coming in a little bit. About a week after getting back, we went down over to Nova Scotia, where Julie and the pastor grew up, and it was freezing cold over there. And even in the service, I was mentioning about working over there and everything. We had a little kiddie pool and everything, and just you get used to the temperature. I mean, we run at about 110, 120 during the hot season, and so it's Fahrenheit. I'm American, okay, so I won't do the conversion because I'm not that smart. Anyway, so about 110, 120 Fahrenheit. In the hot season, your body adapts to that. And so I was telling the church in Sonora, which is on the right on the eastern shore, where it doesn't get past, it doesn't get past 20s in the summer. It is cold down there. And I said we had a kiddie pool, we had to put it away though during the cold season because it's about in the 70s Fahrenheit. So they kind of looked at me funny, but we are glad to be back. And we were up for our furlough, and we decided we had trying to decide whether or not to take it at this timing or when to schedule it. Of course, Julie is expecting our third child, and we decided we didn't want to do the medical over there. It's not the best medical in the world. The procedures are all right, but she had an operation done while we were over there. It's an emergency operation she had to get done. And she said the procedure was fine. We went to the Capitol, to one of the better hospitals. And the procedure went well. They told me it'll be about 2 hours or so. And so I went up the stairs and found a little lunch cafe to eat my sandwich. And probably about 45 minutes, they finished the procedure. And she woke up. It's after the procedure. It's the care afterwards. There's no care. There's nothing. She woke up, she said, in what was probably, she didn't know where she was. She woke up and it was like a warehouse full of, on this rickety old cot in a warehouse of half groaning, half dying women laying around her, all moaning and groaning. She didn't know where she was. She didn't know if she was still in the hospital or woke up in a horror movie or what. And she's trying to get the nurse's attention. She had to get up and it was turned being rid. And afterwards, she was getting up on her own. There was no nurse in sight. And people are groaning, and I'm gonna eat my sandwich, having a good time. She's hobbling along, and some lady rolls over and grabs her down and says, "Help me!" She says, "Nurse, somebody get in here!" And anyway, there's just no aftercare. It's bring your own meds, literally. You have to bring your own medication. Anyway, we decided, we're up for a furlough. We're gonna go ahead and come back after being here in the States where I'm from, and I'll be going back this summer. I'm going to read a passage in Acts 17, and then I'm going to give an update of the ministry, how God has been working. So you can turn there, and I'll read a couple verses in this passage. It's been exciting to see what God is doing towards our last furlough. We raised funds to construct this ministry center. When your pastor came to visit us, we had just broken ground and had the foundation done, had a few walls up. I hadn't gotten that far, and God provided. Our first term, God gave us a vision. We wanted to take what was being done from the past, other missionaries that they had implemented, outreach programs, and wanted to, those that were working and effective, we wanted to continue doing that. And then as well, we wanted to try to implement some newer ministries and outreach programs and everything as we were doing this new church plant. And so we felt led to construct a building. We didn't have a core group yet. We had worked with another missionary. And so I was a little intrepid going back and raising funds to construct a building when we didn't even have the church plant going yet. But we felt led of the Lord to do it, and God was abundantly provided for that. And even before I began aggressively raising funds for the center, God had allowed $25,000 to come in toward it. And one after another, money came in, and your church gave, and other churches gave toward it. And just recently, we had a team come out because it's a good thing. We've already run out of space and need more room for some of the ministries that we want to do. And so another church I came out and they sent more money to finish a third floor. We're doing half the third floor. We're adding a couple rooms. And it's just exciting to see what God is doing. So I was a little nervous, but God God allowed the funds to come in. Then when I got back about 2.5 years ago, we broke ground, and we are in, your pastor gave the DC, we are in a very, it's a very densely populated part of our town. As you mentioned, it's a high percentage of our country is Muslim. Our city, it prides itself in being the entry, the founding city where Islam was introduced to West Africa. And so it is a strongly Islamic country. I mean, they are a city. And the neighborhood where we wanted to start the church and open up this ministry center, very heavily populated and just very entrenched in Islam and traditions and prayers and all that. And where our center was, where the property was located, when they bought it back in the 90s, there was nobody around. But since then, it's built up, and we're on a very narrow street with 3 doors down from the local mosque. And I mean, we're right in there with everybody. So once I got it up, the building up, and we were going to open up a few ministries, I was a little nervous. I know, well, here we are, how are people going to respond? Here we are in a tight-knit community, and we're being very clear on what we're doing. We're doing, we're trying to reach people with the gospel. In fact, just before I came back, we did a grand opening for our library, and I invited some neighbors and some of the hardware places where I got my lumber and things like that. And my mason was visiting one of the ladies we invited who owns a hardware place, and she said to my mason, who's a Muslim, she said, "Hey, I don't think I'm going to go to this thing that they're doing over there." He said, "Oh, really? Why? They're good people." And he said, "Well, I've heard that they're trying to convert people." He said, "Well, he's really nice about it and everything," and he kind of calmed her and everything and said, "They're not, really." When I got back to me, I said, "Well, that is kind of what we're doing, but we don't force anybody, obviously, or anything." So I didn't know how people were going to respond, and just the way God worked. Watching God work in missions, knowing it's His work. I remember we were getting ready to open up the library. I had a few books, and we had a Christian library we were going to open up, and people can come and read books, and we could reach out in that way. And then we were going to start doing a Bible reading time on Sunday mornings. And I was a little nervous how people would respond. And I remember walking through the door. It was about a week before we were going to open officially. And there's an old man sitting in front of our building. He was talking to a bunch of our neighbors. And as I approached, he looked up at me and said, "Hey, Tuba," which is, I have to be white guy. "Hey, Tuba," he said, "do you know Ron Brett?" I said, "Yeah, sure. He's the director for our mission, and he was a missionary here about 20 years ago. And I know him real well." He took all those other guys, and he said, "Man, this guy was the greatest Tuba I ever knew, and he was always there for you. He's a great friend, and he was entrenched in the culture, and he was just a great guy." And then he turned to me and said, "Do you know La Mission Baptiste? Do you know the Baptist mission?" I said, "Well, yeah, that's what we're building right here. We're just duplicating what was done in the other part of town, and we have a library here like we had in the other part of town." And he turned to all the other guys and said, "This is a great center. This is a great mission. You got to get behind what this Tuba is doing and support him and back him up and don't give him any problems." And they're nodding. And of course, and I never met him before that, never met him after that. God sent him there that day. And man, just gave me a boost that we got it open about a week later. We wanted to do some children's outreach, and we're very careful in Senegal with how we deal with working with children. There are laws against brainwashing and indoctrinating children. One missionary a couple years ago spent about a year in jail because he had been accused of indoctrinating and brainwashing children, and they put him in jail for that. So we're really careful with how we deal with that. And but we wanted to do something, and so somebody suggested just do permission slips with whatever you do and be very clear what you're doing. So we thought, all right, let's do like a Bible club type thing on Tuesday night. And at that point, it was just Julie and I and an intern who had come to work with us for about 3 months. And so I wrote permission slips, and I was very clear. I wrote down, okay, we're going to have Bible lessons, and we're going to teach from the Bible. We're going to do Bible songs. We're going to learn Bible verses, and we're coloring with Bible books, Bible crayons, everything's Bible. Okay, we're going to be very clear what we're doing. And we passed it out to all the neighbor kids, and there are kids everywhere. So we were passing out to all the kids who come by, and everybody took one. And I thought, well, maybe we'll have 3 or 4. Once our parents see, what we're doing. They'll discourage kids from coming outside. And I remember the first Tuesday night, we got there, we sat up. I went and opened the door. There was about 40 kids lined up with their permission slips ready to come in, and it was all signed, and man, it was just exciting. And that was just our street. Okay, we just did our street. And so there's so many opportunities. God is working in a great way. It's exciting. Luke wrote here in Acts chapter 17, now when they had passed verse 1 through Amphipolis and Apollonia, they came to Thessalonica, where was the synagogue of the Jews. And Paul and Marcus, as his manner was, went in unto them, 3 days Sabbath, reasoned with them out of the Scriptures, opening in the legend that Christ must be suffered and risen again from the dead, and that this Jesus whom I preach unto you is Christ, and some of them believe. Okay, that Paul, the Bible says, as his manner was. Paul had a method. Okay, missionaries, pastors, talk about methods and different approaches, and we, of course, are there to evangelize. That is our main mission. In world evangelism, the point of it is to get the gospel to people. And so God led us to Senegal when I was in Bible college, and confirmed that Senegal was a place, and we got there and worked in our first term with another missionary couple, and right away we realized it is a difficult country. First of all, it's very difficult to get Muslims to come to church. Our entire first term that we were there, I only got one Muslim guy to come to church. And he accepted Christ, and I'll share his testimony tonight. I hope he'll be back. His testimony of what God is doing to the believers there, the persecution they go through. I'm going to share a little more detail tonight. I hope he'll be back. He'll be encouraged by it, your faith be strengthened. But this one visitor who came, he got saved. I guess I had two Muslim visitors, and he came the guy. He called me before service, asked me where I was. I said, I'm at the library. You want to come? And I was in the middle of preaching when he showed up. And I said, go ahead and sit down. And so two visitors, and a young guy turned into the company. But anyway, only one the whole first term. The majority of our outreach and reaching people is not as usually we do here in North America, as our Sunday morning, get them to the service and get them under the preaching. The majority of outreach is done during the weekdays, and so there's different areas in which you try to reach out, and different missionaries have implemented and tried different methods. And our first term was basically just learning the word and asking God to give us a vision and the manner in which we would approach this. And so we kind of laid out a design of how we wanted our building done and what we wanted done to the building. One of the effective tools that have been used for the past 30 years since missionaries have been there is a library. In fact, two of the leading Christians in our community among the Wolof people, two of them, they're more older Christians, and they've been saved for a long time. One is a pastor of a Brethren church in our town. The other was a member of our church for a long time. His son is now working with us. But both of them were either saved through the library of the Baptist mission back in the 90s, or began their journey seeking Christ through it. And so a lot of the main leadership, even among the Wolof people, were affected by this library that we had. And so we wanted to definitely continue doing that. And so one of the main rooms downstairs is going to be our library. We opened up that. I mentioned a young man came about 2 months before we came back for our furlough, and I had prayed when we drove around about approaching this family and possibly having one of this gentleman's sons coming to work with us. I didn't have a spot at the time, but gave it to the Lord and asked God if it was His will that He would bring a Senegalese worker alongside with us, and we're getting this church going and trying to get this outreach center going. And about 2 months before we came back, one of this gentleman's son who was saved in the 90s, his family grew up in the church. All of his sons are believers, and they're in different leadership positions throughout the country. But he had one son who was going through Bible college. He was saved and baptized in our church in the 90s when the former missionaries were there, and then had moved to Mauritania for about 10 years for work. Came back into Bible college and was working in the ministry south of us. And then came back and moved back to our city because it was his home church growing up. He wanted to rejoin our church, and then slowly we did implementing it into some of the ministries. Just a great answer. Just in the 2 months before we came back, it was such a blessing and such a help. And so pray for him. His name's Mead. We've been working with him little by little. And if you're on Facebook, you can follow some of the information with him. Our next prayer letter, I'll kind of give a personal profile of him and his ministry and what we'll be doing and what he'll be involved in. So he's overseeing our library and our teaching ministries right now normally. So we have the library open in the mornings, and then one of the things we want to do, which is really the key ministry for our entire center. No matter what we have going on, this is kind of the central focus of what we do. I was speaking with another Senegalese believer, and we were discussing, because how you approach things, sometimes when you go to different countries, different terms mean different things. And so, for example, in Senegal, because it's primarily Muslim, the other religion that is a minority, but is kind of mostly known, is Catholicism. And they are a people group that have traveled across North Africa as Islam was speaking through, destroying churches and either beheading or converting people to Islam. This people group, the Sahel, they fled because they didn't want to convert, and finally made it to Senegal, and had no place to go, and just as the French were coming in. They resisted at first the French and Catholicism and things like that, but then they started got hold of the French alcohol and basically became Catholic after that. And really in Senegal, if you read anything about the history of Senegal and stereotypes and things there, it's not Christianity or Catholicism is basically synonymous with drunkards. And the number one question we get asked working there by Muslims, the first thing they'll ask us is, do you drink? And it's a huge issue with Muslims. And so we decided, okay, with our center, we're not going to put the name church on it. We do have church services on Sunday night, but we don't put the name church on it because automatically that associates you with Catholic, and they're not going to come into church. And so just by having that name on there, even at the kids, there are a lot of Muslims that even come during the weekdays. But what we did come up with a name finally for our center, it's called Yankat Isa Centre Baptiste, which means the Living Hope Baptist Center. So we have Baptist in there, which distinguishes us from Roman Catholics and Jehovah's Witnesses. And so that doesn't scare people off. And so we just, anyway, so we finally came up with the name, and one of the things that Senegalese believers said is you want to make sure that people know who you are, where you stand, that you're unashamed, you're Christians. You teach the Bible, you're not ashamed of that. Avoid using the terms church and things like that, but at the same time, you want to distinguish you are people of the blood. And so one of the ways we do that, and one of the ways we reach people and try to find out those who are seeking, is having a daily Bible reading time. So after about 12:30 every day, no matter what ministry is going on, whether it's an English program or a library or an activity room or an exercise room, no matter what's going on, we shut everything down and we invite people to come to this Bible reading time. We've had several people stay during the weekday. We read a passage from the Old Testament, and then we ask if they want prayers or anything done, and they want us to pray for them. Usually they don't stay for our prayer time. It's interesting, we're trying to decide whether we would allow, because most everybody who comes are Muslim during prayer time, 5 times a day, they'll just stop wherever they are and have prayers, and they thought, well, we're going to have allow prayers in our building, since it is kind of, we do church services there. And we're trying to decide. I remember one day, one of my friends, he's a Muslim, very, very devoted Muslim. He was there. The mosque is only 3 doors down from us. And he was there, we were talking, it was prayer time. He said, oh, I need to pray. Is it all right if I just do it out in the hallway? I said, yeah, that'd be fine. Tell you what, you go ahead and pray, do your Muslim prayers here. And then when you're done, if it's okay, you and I will go down to the mosque, and I'll do my Christian prayers there at the mosque there. Is that okay? He said, I'll just go down to the mosque. So he was like, all right, you gotta be tactful with these things. So anyway, but we have the Bible reading time, and then from that, our Sunday mornings, we have a Bible reading time. We don't do a traditional service. We just gather and we'll read a passage from the New Testament, and then we discuss it. And Mali, the guy who worked with us, he'll do it in Wolof, and I'll usually read it in French, and then we'll share a few principles from the passage, and then we open it up to questions and discussions, and it gives a lot of interaction that way. It's since we've begun implementing that about a year ago, we've had about a dozen or so Muslim visitors come on a Sunday morning to the church. More than our first term doing traditional services. And so our Sunday night, we have traditional services, and God's blood. It's just exciting to see what God is doing. We average about, we average about 25, and usually our morning crowd is even different from our evening crowd. About half that are young people and teenagers, and it's just exciting to see what God is doing. when we have a Japanese lady who's been there for about 25 years. She's 75 years old. She surrendered to missions in Japan when she was 50 years old. Okay, so he said, well, I'm getting a little bit older and I don't really think I can work overseas or do that. 50 years old. And she came over and she's still there in Senegal. She's been such a blessing in our ministry. When we began doing services, she joined us. And she does our kids' class in the morning. And it's just been a great blessing to see how God has used her in a great way. She works during the weekdays. She'll have kids come to her house and she'll teach them the Bible. And she's been doing that for 25 years. There are people literally all over Senegal who have been saved either as a result of coming daily to learn Bible stories. We heard a report of a young lady who went to another church in our town and put her faith in Christ. And they asked her all these questions. She said, I want to get saved. The pastor there asked her a bunch of questions. She had all the answers. And they said, well, you're from a Muslim family. How do you know all this? And she told them, I grew up going to Amituba, which is Amikole, the Japanese way. I grew up going there every weekday, learning the Bible, and God had touched her heart. She's faithful in the church there now. Just exciting to see what God is doing. And I hope maybe you can come back and visit. We're praying that if they finally figure out what's been ailing your pastor, we're praying that it's not because of his trip to Senegal. He may not want to come back. But we do joke with people, if we want to lose weight, just come to Africa. He kind of took it literally. We're all really excited, but we're praying for him. We pray for you, and we thank God for what he's doing here in Missionary. And we look forward to getting back. I'll be going back July 19th with a young man from Georgia who's joining us. We're going to work with the young man who got saved in our ministry there. And they're both going to partner together and go back to this young man who's saved in our ministry. They're going to go back to his home country, maybe about 5 years down the road, and start work there. And it's just exciting to see what God is doing. And we're excited. We're ready to get back. We're glad to be here and hope you're encouraged by what's going on there. We'll share, again, tonight, we're going to share a few more testimonies and updates about some of the believers there and what God is doing. But you're in Acts 17 already. Look back at Acts chapter number 16. And we're going to look here at the Apostle Paul in his work of missions, coming to Lystra and coming to Derby, finding Timothy, and God using Timothy. Paul was always looking to build his team, and there's nothing, I believe, on earth, nothing that's more beautiful than seeing unity in the body of believers. There's nothing like it. Of course, God created us in his image from the very beginning. He created man in his image, and part of that implies that we are created for communion. Okay, that's part of what it means to be created in God's image. God is the Trinity, God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit. Jesus talked about that communion within the Godhead in John chapter 17, talking about being one with the Father and praying that we as believers would be one. That's one of the great desires of Jesus is not only for people to be saved, but for his body to be unified. So God created us, and creating us in his image created us for communion. But then sin entered when Satan decided that he was going to tempt man, and Adam decided to give in to Satan. That communion was destroyed. Okay? And that communion that was destroyed because of sin, the communion that was destroyed was fellowship between God and man, fellowship and communion between man and woman. And Satan, in today's society and all throughout societies of the past, he's trying to take advantage of that. And we see divorce rates like we've never seen before, and trouble in the homes, and there's conflict there, and Satan is trying to use that separation from God to exploit it as much as he can. And then, of course, that communion destroyed fellowship between man and his brother. The first children born to a perfect Adam and Eve who had sinned, adopted and inherited that sin nature, and one kills the other. Now we see a history of violence and a history of destruction, a history of that communion being broken, and now we see a uniting, but a unification of mankind under sin, to the point of God had to divide the languages because they were united against God. And then it got so bad that God had to renew the earth by destroying the unity that had been created in sin apart from God. But he called out and separated Adam
No. And then shortly after, as the earth began to repopulate, and as man began to grow again in population and in number, that unity against God began to develop again, and man had turned his back on God. And so God, again, calls out Abraham, separates him from his family. And there's a principle in Scripture that before there can be unity with God, before the unity even among brethren, and unity in the family, before unity as God's people and communion with God can be restored, there has to be separation. There has to be division. That's why Jesus said in Matthew chapter number 10, one of the most interesting passages in Scripture, one of the most puzzling passages if you don't understand the context and culture in which Jesus is speaking. But he said, think not that I am come to send peace on the earth. Jesus is the Prince of Peace. But it's important to understand, he's talking about peace on earth. He said, look, my first coming, think not I'm come to bring peace on earth. I am not come to bring peace, but a sword. Another passage in Luke, he says, I am come to bring division. And he said, I'm going to bring a sword to bring separation, division, a father against the son, and a son against the father, a father-in-law against the son-in-law, son-in-law against the father, and mother against the daughter. And he says, a man's foes shall be they of his own household. What is he talking about? Well, he's talking about a separation that has to take place in order for you to have community with God. Now, the context we're going to get a little more deeper into it tonight, is the culture in which we're dealing in, where society and family is everything, where culture, the Eastern culture, there's no individualism like there is in North America. The young man who's working with us, his name's Mali, he wants to get married this fall, and he's doing what is traditional there. After you get married, you just add a room on to your parents' home, and the home just keeps growing. You add another room on, another son gets married, add another room on, and the compound just continues to grow. You rarely leave that community. You're all together. It's just a different culture. And it's a culture of honor and shame. Those two attributes and virtues are exemplified. And so in this culture, many Eastern cultures, boundaries are set, and to step outside those societal boundaries is to bring shame on your family, to bring shame on your community. And so in Senegal, we see this all the time. That's what Jesus is talking about. He's saying, look, if you're going to follow me, you are going to have to make a decision to separate yourself from the cultural norm, what society has accepted in your culture as being what is acceptable, as what we have put as the norm. In Senegal, Islam is the norm. In Senegal, Islam is the religion. To step outside of that and become a believer is to bring great shame on your family. It's one of the greatest hindrances that keep people from coming to Christ. Is not, as in North America, the material things or the lifestyle I would have to give up. But one of the greatest hindrances to bringing people to Jesus Christ is the shame they know they will bring on their family. We've had young people tell us, look, I believe what you're teaching. I know it must be true, and Jesus must have died on the cross. But then they'll say, but if I become a believer, I'll lose everything. One young guy told another missionary there, he said, look, my father educated me, he sent me to school, he gave everything so I could have a college degree. If I become a Christian and shame my family by becoming a believer, he might kill me. And he's a dead serious. There has to be a separation before there can be reestablished community. God separated Abraham, he established the nation of Israel. He established them really for one purpose: to provide a people through whom the Messiah would come. The only one who truly can bring unity to mankind again and community with God again. God established in church, look, Israel as a nation failed in their mission. They did not recognize the Messiah. And so God, the mystery from the beginning of creation, God establishes his church, a mystery which is salvation is for all people, and in Christ we not only have communion with God again, but we are one body as believers. He's given us a mission. But the problem with that unity, there cannot be unity until the first division, separation. And that's what Jesus talked about. He said, I came not to bring peace on earth, but a sword. I'll share a few more testimonies tonight about some people who have gone through that separation and persecution because of their decision to follow Christ. So God has established His church, has given us a mission. Nothing is more beautiful than seeing unity in church. You see a team working together, when we partner together. This is what Paul's doing here. We see a young man who makes a decision to sell out to Jesus Christ. Give everything to him. Paul comes along, and through Paul's influence and his preaching, God uses him to influence Timothy, and I think there's a few principles we can look at the life of Timothy that I hope will be an encouragement and might encourage you to give everything for Jesus Christ. The Bible says, then came he, Paul, to Derbe and Lystra, chapter 16, verse number 1. And behold, a certain disciple was there named Timotheus, the son of a certain woman, which was a Jewess, and believed, but his father was a Greek. Now this is Paul's second missionary trip. He had already been to Derbe and Lystra on his first trip. Now, if you know anything about what happened there, you'd understand going back to this city. Of course, he wanted to go back and reconfirm the churches. Verse 41 of chapter 15 says he went through Syria and Cilicia, confirming the churches. He wanted to go back and reestablish and see how they were doing. And he had chosen Silas to go with them, and God had formed a team, and Luke goes along with them, and he's got a missionary team with them, and he's always looking to recruit more people, and he comes back to Derbe and Lystra. The fact that he went back to this city is a testimony in and of itself of his faith and courage. Look what happened the first time Paul went. Look back in chapter 14, verse number 19. And there came thither certain Jews from Antioch and Iconium who persuaded the people, and having stoned Paul, threw him out of the city, supposing he had been dead. Howbeit, as the disciples stood round about him and rose up, he came into the city, and the next day he departed with Barnabas to Derbe. His first trip, what happened? Jealous Jews come along, and people are being saved, and the work is being done, and they come along, and they incite the people, they start a riot, they take Paul, they stone him, they drag him out, and he's left for dead. And here's young Timothy, who Paul probably led to the Lord during that first trip. Here's young Timothy watching it all, seeing his spiritual father drugged through the streets, drugged down and stoned and pulled out to the end of the city and left for dead. And then he stands up and hobbles back into the city and just keeps on going. And the fact that he went back to the city, knowing what could be waiting for him, knowing what happened, I think he had two motivations. One was faith. By faith, he went back. And he's motivated by love. His love for the people of God, his love for the lost. We have a dentist in the States, he's from Iraq. My grandma led him to the Lord maybe about 6 months ago. And so I went to go see him when we got back here. And I was then filling out my insurance. He sat down, and he had been a Catholic growing up in Iraq. But he sat down and he said, are you crazy? I said, well, I don't think so. What do you mean? He said, we are fleeing these Muslim countries, and you're going to it. What's wrong with you? I said, well, we feel safe. It's not, we don't feel under too much danger. But God's called us there. Like, well, God bless you. Good luck with that. Here he goes back to a country, a city where they had left him for dead. But he went motivated by faith, motivated by love. Jesus said, greater love that no man than this, that man lay down his life for his friend. Or at least be willing to lay down your life. So here he goes back to the city, and here's Timothy. The Bible says a certain disciple was there named Timotheus, the son of a certain woman, which was a Jewess, and believed, but his father was a Greek. Number one, we see the testimony of Timothy. None of that, we see a family divided. And the whole introduction I was talking about, division and God using, look, before there can be unity in the body of believers, before there can be communion with God, with that old nature, with your sinful nature, and whatever in your culture, in your society is keeping you from coming to Christ, there is a step of courage oftentimes that needs to be taken in order to overcome some of the obstacles in coming to Jesus Christ. And here's a young man who had made that decision. His father was a Greek, most likely an unbeliever. But his mother, and as we read in 2 Timothy, and his grandmother believed in the Messiah, believed the Scriptures, taught Timothy diligently. And here, a divided family, God is going to take a young man raised by a mother who was the only one in the family who had any spiritual courage in her, took him to church faithfully, taught him the scriptures, despite having a dad who had no spiritual ounce of any type of understanding or desire to lead his family in the things of God. And yet his mother and his grandmother made a decision: I'm going to follow the Lord. I'm going to follow what the Bible teaches. And look, I don't know what kind of family you come from or what kind of family you are in right now. I don't know if your wife isn't interested in spiritual things. Your husband doesn't really care. He's apathetic. It doesn't matter what type of family you come from, what the situation, what sin is ravaging and wreaking havoc within your family. God can take any situation, any type of family, any type of person, and you sell it to Jesus Christ, and they'll use you. And because of his mother's faithfulness and his divided family, she said, look, no matter what happens, I'm going to follow Jesus, teach my son. And here in a family where really it's only the wife care about the things of God, we find a young man who is a disciple, sold out for Jesus Christ, sold out for the work of the Lord. The Bible says there was a certain disciple named Timotheus, which was, verse 2, well reported of by the brethren under the testimony of Timothy. We see a dedicated faith. He had a dedicated faith. Remember what Paul said? He was reminiscing of Timothy's history, Timothy's family. He said, Timothy, you know, every time I think of you, I call to remembrance the unfeigned faith that was in you. That was first in your grandmother, in your mother, and I know it's in you too. The unfeigned faith, the non-hypocritical faith, the real faith that's in you. Not just a show, not just an external expression of religious attributes. It's not just motions that you're going through, doing your prayers. I did my thing, I went to Sunday, I put in my time. He says, real. He says, your mother, your grandmother, they had a big part of that. And I know that faith, that dedicated faith is in you as well. Paul knew, look, Timothy comes. And he's well reported up. He's a good young man, solid, loves the Lord. Paul's always looking to add more to his team. And they say, what about Timothy there? Now, I want you to think about the faith of Timothy. I want you to think about his decision to follow Paul. It wasn't just, oh, that'd be awesome, I'm going to go with Paul. You know how many adventures he's on? He gets to travel the world. It would be so cool. We meet young people all the time. It would be awesome. It would be awesome to be a missionary, get to travel the world and see the world. And yes, it is awesome being a missionary. Don't get me wrong. But it's not a cakewalk. Think about the faith it took for Timothy to make this decision. Here comes Paul, his spiritual father. Yes, he had a lot of respect for him. There was an attachment there that he probably didn't even have with his own father. There was a love there, a bond there that was unbreakable, that was in Jesus Christ. But still think about this decision that he had to make. Paul comes back and he says, look, I'm looking for somebody else to join the team. Timothy, I want you to consider it. What did he have to consider? Not all the adventures and the people saying, yeah, all that he can consider, but think about what just happened the last time he was there. Drug out of the city and stoned. Think about all the things Paul endured, the shipwrecks and the stonings and the beatings. This is what Timothy has to look forward to joining this missionary team. I don't know, maybe he thought twice about it. I know his mother probably sure did, right? Timothy comes up and says, I just surrendered the missions. That's wonderful. I'm going to go with Paul. Are you sure? Do you remember what happened to him last time he was here? He had a dedicated faith. Knowing what would come. He said, no, I'm going to. I think about a young man. Our last furlough, we were here. We had to pray for a young man named Gabriel. Some of you might remember his testimony. While we were on furlough, he still had been in prison, and I didn't hear his whole story, but after he got saved, whenever anybody gets saved there, in fact, one of the gentlemen who was saved back in the 90s, I was discussing with him Christianity in Senegal and converts and things, and we have more people coming and things like that. And so he was just sharing some of his wisdom, being Senegalese and having some influence there. He said, you know, if somebody comes to your services and they confess Jesus Christ, but they've never had any type of persecution of any kind in this culture, he said, you might want to question their confession. He said, it's going to happen. And when people make that decision, they know what's going to happen.
this young man, he came to Christ. His name was Gabriel. I had to pray for him, and he came to Christ. He just started seeking Christ, and God led him to a young man who was in another Baptist church in our town, and they were able to get him a Bible and everything, and he would hide it under his bed and everything, and hope his parents would find it. He'd be reading it, studying it, and finally he got saved eventually. What really led it over the top, what helped him make that final decision, he knew the cost of what it would take to become a Christian, and so he was hesitant, and he finally decided, well, I'm just going to make that decision. He went to the mission because he had been sick, he could barely walk, and they said, well, come, we have some medicine for you. And right outside the clinic where they would hand out medicines and everything, they would do a prayer meeting. So as he was leaving, they asked him, can we pray for you that God would heal you? He said, yes, it's okay, yes, Lord. So they prayed for him and asked God to heal him and make him better that day. And he said, I could barely walk out. I was going to get a taxi, but by the time I got to the road, he said, I felt more energy. He said, I felt more strength. He said, I just decided I was going to try to walk. And he said, by the time I got home, he said, I was totally better. From whatever it was, yeah, flu or whatever it was, they got you. He said, that was the final decision. I knew, God is real, Jesus is real. And even as his family found out, and right away they kicked him out of his home, and they told him not to come back. I mean, they were so infuriated that their son would become a Christian. And that's the thing about Senegal and about being in Muslim countries, especially Senegal. They're very tolerant in a lot of areas. They tolerate us being Westerners and even being Christian. We're fine, we can do whatever we want. But it's one of their own converts. And the whole thing about the shame and dishonor in Islam, the two greatest shames that you can bring on your family is either committing suicide or becoming a Christian. And in Islam, there's in fact something called, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it right, but it's like fatwa. It's in Arabic, it's the honor killing. And they actually teach in Islam. And you've heard stories of those converting and the parents will kill their children. But they actually teach in the doctrine of it that they believe that by killing a child who converted to Christianity is showing mercy on them, and maybe Allah will accept them. And that's what we're trying to parent. Otherwise, we're going straight down. And he knew this, and he made that decision. His parents kicked him out. I heard his dad came, and he's going to church and staying at the church there. And his dad came and said, look, if you keep going to this church and keep dishonoring us like this, if you continue to come here, we're going to burn down this church. And he went to the pastor and said, Pastor, I don't want my parents to burn down the church that they're threatening to, and I want you to come to church and be word of the Bible. And the pastor, he's from Brazil, he said, well, go ahead and let him burn down the church. He said, are you sure? He said, yeah, we're renting it from a Muslim, so just let him burn it down. And so they didn't burn down the church, but eventually they brought him back to his home, and they put him in a car, they tied him up, they drove him down to the holy city of Tuba in our country, which happens all the time with young people underage. They drove him there, and they locked him in a room, and the dad paid the Marabouts some money, and he said, can you reconvert to Islam? The Marabouts said, give me 1 month, we'll be back to Islam. And every day he'd come in, and they didn't physically torture him or beat him or anything, but they would provide him food, and they just do all kinds of things. And we didn't know what had happened to him. We were praying for him. We didn't know where he ended up. And finally he got home, and he called the pastor, and he came over, and we discussed. He said, I'm okay. I just, they're trying to get me to reconvert. He says, don't worry, I'm not. Every day they come in, they ask me, will they do your prayers? No, are you going to pray? Are you going to reconvert to Islam? And you can tell them every day, look, you can do whatever you want. You can kill me if you want to. Jesus is in my heart, and you can't change that. You can't take it out. There's nothing that's going to change. The mayor said, finally his dad got back, and Pastor Sergio there, he had counseled them, well, they're not physically harming you, just stay and see what God will do. He was able to encourage 2 other young ladies, teenagers, that were going through the same thing. Finally, his dad came back, and Mary said, "You get this kid out of here." Ever since he has arrived, he's messing up all my rituals. It's little, sorcery type deal thing there. He said he's messing everything up. Get him out of here! I don't want to ever see him again. And his dad put his head down, took him to another city, and they were staying there. And he didn't know anybody there really. And so it was a Saturday, he went out to go visit, and he wanted to find a church. If there was a church, he wanted to try to find it in the area. His dad thought he went out to go reconnect with some of his Muslim friends, so he got pulled that evening. He ended up finding the church and connected with the pastor,
And he got back home that evening. His dad said, "Well, I'm glad you were out, reconnecting with some of your Muslim friends. I think they could be a good influence." I was going to tell my dad I was at the church with the pastor, and so the next morning his dad was up far before Noah watching him. And he said, when I woke up, my dad was watching me. He wanted to see if I was going to start the day with prayer. And I was doing it. I got up, I got dressed, and I headed to the door. I was going to church. So I opened the door, and my dad said, "Where are you going?" He said, "Dad, I'm going to church." His dad walked in. "What? How do you know any Christians in this town? You don't even know anybody here. What's wrong with you?" And his dad said, "You take a step outside that door. One step outside that door, I never was no longer myself. And I'm sick and dying of what you kept visiting. He put me in the ground and said, I died. You should not be my people. I don't ever want to see you." He made a decision. That's it. That's sort of the vision Jesus taught. Jesus said, "You don't hate your family more than you love me. You're not worthy." Timothy made that decision. He said, Jesus said, "If you love your life, if you're ready to lose your life, if you're ready to lose your life, you'll find it." That day, Timothy made a decision. Thank God used him. Look at verse number 5. Because of his surrender, and so were the churches establishing the faith and increased in number daily. Knowing what would come, he made the decision. Through a dedicated faith, despite having a divided family, God unified his people and used them to grow a church, to establish churches, for partners in missions. Your work here, your faithfulness here, is helping us in our work in Senegal. Your prayers here boost our ministry and give us what we need spiritually to continue. We appreciate that. Love you. And I hope you'll be back tonight to hear some more testimonies and be encouraged by what God is doing. May God help us as the body of believers, unified in the body of Christ in this work, committing ourselves, no matter the cost, to what God's called us. Father, we thank you for your word. Thank you for the testimonies. You surrendered everything, served you, and thank you for Paul, and the testimony scriptures. Lord, I pray you help us as a body of believers to follow you faithfully. Praise Jesus and thank you for your name.
Amen. Let's take our hymnals together and let's turn to 372.